We are all united in our desire for the same things. We want our businesses to grow, our careers to flourish, and our communities to thrive. We want to meet people who energize us, share exciting ideas, and discover new opportunities.
From India to the UK, the USA, the UAE and beyond, IGF is committed to bringing the contemporary India story to the world. Amongst ongoing global turbulence, IGF remains at the centre of limitless innovation, limitless possibilities and limitless collaboration, harnessing talent, technology and enterprise across sectors and geographies for maximum impact. India Global Forum is the gateway for global stakeholders to invest in and benefit from India's global trajectory. Hear from industry titans, build strategic partnerships, invest in the future. Only at India Global Forum. Join the conversation at www.indiaglobalforum.com.
We are all united.
How are you? Give me a smile. Give me a wave, just to prove you're good. I like you lot. Let's get some energy in this room. Welcome to the IGF's 4th London edition of the Culture and Creativity Forum. In this post-FTA world, the Culture and Creativity Forum is going to explore how cultural exchange is more than just art or soft power. It's a superpower. It's a driving force of innovation and identity, shaping society, enriching our lived experience of the world. Now, from world-famous performers to cutting-edge cultural innovators, this forum is going to highlight how creatives in the UK-India corridor are playing a key role in redefining nations, influencing communities, and showcasing these two democracies as true creative powerhouses. Now, let's get into our first conversation. Game on, leveling up India's content. We're about to unveil a game-changing project. Let's get a sneak preview.
Bharat, the land of ancient India. A blessed land of noble heroes and glittering cities. But where heroes rule, villains will attack. Where wealth is plentiful, plunderers will pillage. The time has come to fight these invaders. The time has come to fight these monsters. The time has come to fight the demons. The time has come to fight those who oppress the forest tribes. The time has come to declare war. It's time for you to join the army of heroes. Fight the monsters! Stand with your people! Play the age of Bharat! Protect the weak! Punish the wicked! Ki Jai.
Let's give that a round of applause. Wow. Amish Tripathi, you know who he is. Nicholas Granatino, Chief Executive of Tara Gaming, STEM AI. Gentlemen, come and join me on stage. Wow. I mean, if that was a film, which it's going to be one day, I'm watching it. I'm watching it. Who wants to play the game? Put your hand up. I mean, it gives you a buzz, doesn't it? You want to play the game. Tell us about it, Amish. And Nicholas, great to see you as well. What is the age of Bharat? Why is it a game changer for Indian content? You're all good? Yeah.
Among the things that many people don't know is that gaming is bigger than movies, books, music, theater combined.
Yeah.
Okay, many of us think that gaming is a subculture. Actually, gaming is the culture. All of us are the subculture. Right? And most of our kids are actually all watching, are all playing video games. And at the top end of the gaming world is what are called AAA games, right? High-end, fantastic production,
Big
value,
budget.
top-end, big budget,
Yeah.
bigger than Hollywood movies, and so Assassin's Creed or various other games like that. And that's what all your kids are playing, and the youngsters out here, well, they are playing it already. So we've never had a AAA game on an Indian subject, ever.
Why is that?
We are waiting for Nicola, actually.
Yeah.
So a Chinese game just came out around 2 years back, a year and a half back, a year back, called Black Myth Wukong,
Right.
and it did how much in a month?
What?
It is.
So
it
the
is
market
insane.
is
massive.
enormous if you get the right
Yeah.
product.
And if China can do
Yeah.
it, why can't we?
Nicholas,
And Nicola.
is this the game changer? Does this propel India onto the global gaming map? Give us a sense of how untapped India is as a global gaming hub.
And is, culture goes hand in hand with economic and trade power. And the storytelling in India, for most of the first, 2,000 years of this era has been phenomenal. And it's been phenomenal because actually India was a powerhouse when it comes to trading, and economically, and people were traveling and telling, these stories. But, there was a period of time where, India was not exporting this power, mainly under colonial rule. And I think now is the time for India to come back out with the stories that have been told and are known in the East, but are not so known in the West. And I think it's a gift for me for us to India, to the West. I mean, to actually give these fantastically rich stories and deep philosophical learnings and characters that are in the Ityasa. And the reason we chose gaming, as Amish said, is gaming is also the preeminent kind of medium to go and tell that across the world, and particularly the young. And I think Prime Minister Modi understands that very well. He understood that gaming is actually the way to project the culture and the richness of the culture at the same time as India was kind of rising to being the fourth largest economy in the world, and soon the third largest economy in the world. And before you look at countries like South Korea and Japan, they've used gaming to do that. Of course, the US has done it, and China last year, and now it's time for India to do the same thing.
How much fun, Amish, was it writing this story? You wrote the story. I mean, traditionally, much of global mythology in mainstream gaming, it's the Greek myths, it's the Norse myths. How do you think the age of Bharat shifts the narrative gravity when it comes to gaming?
So actually, as a storyteller, there are two primary challenges in writing for a game and on a subject such as this. Firstly, if you're an author or anyone in the traditional media, author, movie maker, anything, It is linear storytelling, and you as the author or director get to decide how the viewers or readers will travel the journey. You say this is the path, this is the beginning, this is the middle, this is the end, and they don't have a choice. They just have to follow that, right? But in a game, how it works, and that's a serious mind shift actually. I got a very good briefing by Noordin, who's our main gaming producer. He's a Ubisoft veteran.
Yeah.
He says, you don't decide how the player will traverse this world, actually. So you can't tell him this is the beginning, this is the middle, this is the end. You just have to create the world, then the player decides, okay, which path he's going to take. So you have to make sure everything is consistent within there, and it has to be interesting regardless of the path he takes, right? So actually it's far more complicated, but that makes it much more fun, right? That's the first thing.
Yeah.
The second thing, unlike games based on say Greek traditions or Scandinavian traditions or ancient Egyptian traditions, no one worships those gods anymore, right? No Greek worships Zeus, very few Greeks, or no Egyptian worships Amun-Ra. But India is the only pre-Bronze Age culture that is still alive. We still worship our gods and goddesses. So therefore, you have to take those sensitivities into mind as well, right? When you create something like this. But the motivation couldn't be higher because my son, Neil, he's 16 years old.
Yeah.
He reads my books. His friends also read my books. But authors aren't considered cool, frankly.
They're not.
But when I told him I'm designing a game, suddenly, like, I'm cool in his eyes, right? Like,
Yeah.
Dad, you're designing a
Gaming
game.
that did it.
Yeah.
Selling 7 million books didn't do it.
No, didn't do it. I'll tell you what did
writing
it.
a game.
I'll tell you what did it. I don't know if there are any gamers here. You would have heard of this guy called Asmon Gold. He's an American reviewer. You guys, I had no clue who he was, okay? Why should I know, man? I don't know anything about gaming.
Yeah.
So Nicola messages me. I received this message at some 4:35 in the morning. I'm an early riser. And he says, dude, Asmon Gold reviewed our trailer. And I'm like, who the F is Asmon Gold? So, and I forwarded it to my son. Of course, he knew who he was. He was like, Dad,
oh my God,
Asmon Gold reviewed you. You've arrived.
Cool.
Like,
You're
okay.
cool. You're cool. Nicholas, the ambitions, clearly you've got big ambitions, not just for the game, but is it right you're going to expand into films, TV, merchandise? I mean, how big could this be? Sounds like this is just the beginning.
Yeah, I think it's, I mean, the ambition are, of course there's, big, commercial, ambition and people are starting to realize, that Last of Us started as a game and then became a TV series, same for Uncharted. We just had Minecraft as a movie after, Minecraft, the game, which have been, widely successful. But the ambition is not only, commercial. There's a deep, belief I have in what I do is, that actually the talent is evenly distributed in the world. And what is not actually is skill and capital. And to come back to your question, why is it, that actually, India, didn't have a AAA game like China now has, for a year, is basically, the skill of doing these, very, big production, high quality, is mainly something that is, in the West. And it is also our ambition, to actually kind of bring that skill set, into India, and which is why from the very beginning we wanted to work with, iconic talent, like, Amish, but also, Amitabh Bachchan, to actually also draw that talent, to the project. And we also have a studio in Pune, and it is my ambition actually, to go from, 30 people in Pune to 100 people, 12 months from now, because India needs to fully take ownership of its storytelling and the means, whether it's AAA gaming or anything, kind of, going forward, the same way China has done it. But China has done it in 10 years, and I think we can be a catalyst, with Tara Gaming, and to do that, maybe in more like 4 years. And that's, a big plus,
What more would you like the government to do? I mean, Modi, Prime Minister Modi is obviously doing a lot. He's supporting this, making gaming big. What more would you like to hear from the government to help the industry, help India take ownership, to use your words, take ownership of this?
Well, I think, it's, and it's the same in Europe. I think, Prime Minister Modi and even the High Commissioner here totally understands, what this is about. Actually, last year, 15th of August, commemoration speech of India's independence, actually Modi, comes out and says, we have to actually kind of build our gaming industry, leveraging, our stories, leveraging our culture. He's right on point. He often is when it comes, to culture. And I think so. For me, Modi, the government, have done, already a lot, for this project. But it's for, it's for the entertainment industry. It's for some of the investors in India to come and take also ownership, of this project. We're transient as Tara Gaming. This company will be an Indian, fully, Indian company, both in terms of talent, but in terms of capital, going forward. And that's just what we're here for.
You keep mentioning AAA blockbuster. I get it, but I get what it costs to make the latest Avengers film, the latest Mission Impossible. What does it cost to? I mean, you don't have to give us exact figures, but give us a sense of the cost to make a blockbuster like the Age of Bharat, a big AAA film, a AAA game.
Yeah. So I think it's, the thing that has changed, which is a positive and which allows us, to take on, that broad, vision edge challenge, is you basically have now a game engine, by a company called Epic, called Unreal Engine. Before, when you took on a project like that, you needed to build the game engine and then build the game. Now you only need to build, the game. In terms of budget, that means that's considerably, reduce the budget you need, to do something like that. And the talent, in India, and the cost of the talent in India is also, much lower. And we're actually kind of, developing that talent. So I think, it'll be, probably around, $70 million to actually, go from, for the whole production of the game.
Right.
And we're somewhat in, on that already.
And if, I would like to add one thing as well, considering the audience, considering the location.
Yes.
This is actually, in effect, an Indo-UK project. Tara Gaming is based in London.
Yes. And you're all co-founders.
Yeah, we're all co-founders.
Yes.
Amitabh Bachchan ji,
Yeah.
Nicola, we're all co-founders.
How did you get him on board?
Immediately said, yes, let's
It was
talk
easy,
about it.
was it?
It was easy.
Yeah.
And then we went and met him, and he's such a gracious,
He's a gracious
man. He came on board immediately, and the deal got closed very quickly, actually.
I know, it was easier than with you, actually.
And yeah, and he came on board, and
I mean,
yeah,
it helps. Obviously, it helps with the profile as well, which is wonderful.
It's an honor.
Yeah. Who's a gamer here? Stick your hand up. Who's a gamer? Like yeah. Come on, be brave. Don't be shy. Don't be shy. Who's a gamer? Give us a sense, Nicholas, of this game, what it's about, because I looked at it, you play as a forest warden, there's mystical weapons, you have arcane powers, you have to master the grappling hook system, you explore these amazing environments which are inspired by timeless Indian sagas, you can customize your character. Give us a sense of the game itself, what differentiates it, why is it so wonderful?
So I think the reason it's so wonderful, it's first of all, it's novel. This not only the Hollywood to start, but also gaming. As Amish said, I've done a lot with Norse mythology, Greek mythology, but nothing has been done with Indian myth and epic. And that's just, because of, of history. So the novelty of that story is what is, differentiating. The other thing is, and I could see also, and we see it in terms of the talent we attract, most of the talent in India has been playing foreign myth. They want to play, the myth, and it's true also of the Indian diaspora. They want to play the myth they grew up, with. And in itself, that is a novelty. In terms of, what the game is about, it's an action adventure, game. So it's the greatest genre, in gaming. But the adventure part is important. You could see already from the trailer all these various, backdrop, etc. And we want people, to be drawn into this. And the interactivity of the medium means that, as Amish said, people go and travel themselves. They make their choice. And when you make your choice, you're much more immersed and you remember. There's a story of one of our investors, who actually argues a lot with his wife because their teenage son, actually doesn't, plays too much gaming.
Yeah.
And then they travel to Paris. And the kid knows all the monuments. And the mom says, why do you know all the monuments? And I say, because of gaming. That's where I learned. And so we have the opportunity with Assassin's Creed, and we have the opportunity with this game, to retell the story, where the kids are, where the kids and the young people like to be. And that's a phenomenal opportunity that must not be missed and must be done very quickly.
I'll just add some more things, and the gamers will understand this. It's going to be co-op. So, and you would have seen that in the trailer already. So you don't just play as an individual. You can have a friend join as well. At this point of time, it looks like it may be only 2 co-op. I don't know if he'll make it multiple, but even that is quite good. And that is complicated to put together.
Yeah.
So that's one aspect. The second aspect, the quality of the gameplay. What you saw was just pre-alpha. Okay.
So it's going to be levels.
So I'll tell you the quality of thinking that goes in, and that's why it's a pleasure working. So they're not just going to use the gaming engine and use swordplay, because we know that will not work, right? Because much of the gaming engine stuff is actually built on the older games. So we're actually getting a Kalaripayattu team together, various other Indian martial arts teams together. There'll be a studio in Hyderabad. We're going to use motion capture, and we're going to get them to actually sword fight. That is what will go into the game. So it'll be the kind of stuff you have never seen.
Yeah.
The quality of thinking that's going in. It's never been done for Indian stuff before.
It's exciting. Amish, we've got 40 seconds. Final question. Banker, tick. Diplomat, tick. Author, tick. Broadcaster, tick. And now gamer. Is there no stopping you?
Yeah, the only thing I haven't made it to is becoming a host at IGF. Maybe that's what I need to do.
I need this gig. You can't take this gig from me. You've got all the other gigs. As you say, you weren't necessarily a gamer. You're suddenly cool in your family. Has the transition been a fun one?
Oh, it's damn cool. Like I said, my son kind of shares his gaming thoughts with me.
Yeah.
I actually showed him the trailer, and both he and his friends were giving me feedback on things that I need to do, which I discussed with Noordin. And Noordin was impressed. How come you are getting all these insightful gaming stuff? Yeah, it's great fun.
Big round of applause, and good luck to them. We're going to do a quick photo. Stand here, quick photo. Then I'll introduce our next panel. Quick photo. Fantastic. Thank you both. Brilliant. Next up, we've got Amber Murray, who's from City AM, and the theme is New Slate for a New World. What's next for film and TV? But first, I want to hear from our venue partner. Watch this.
Rishi
Thank
Kubland,
you.
who's the Director of Research and Innovation at the BFI, and Manisha Advani, who's the CEO of MA Entertainment, which is going to be among India's top 5 production houses in the last decade and a half. So I wanted to start, first of all, with this sort of meteoric rise in demand for Indian content that we're seeing across the globe, these sort of big shifts in audience behavior and production. Do you think this is a temporary trend, or do you think that the global center of storytelling is starting to shift?
Should I?
Go.
Firstly, thank you so much for being here. I didn't realize so many people were interested in the business of Indian content. It's warming. And I want to tell you that when I read the question about meteoric rise, I was a bit curious myself, because we are very often, I tend to be a little controversial, guys, I should just warn you. We're very often told that Indian content is for the Indian diaspora. And I take a lot of umbrage to that, because when you look at the interest that is generated in content which is put out by Sanjay Leela Bhansali, a Hira Mandi goes and tops charts at Netflix world over, or you have a small little film like Lapata Ladies that finds its way to be understood by people who are non-Hindi speaking. I think it's fair to say that there is a demand that goes beyond just the Indian diaspora for our content. And I think if we were to take a page from a tiny country called South Korea, and have that kind of confidence, and I think people sitting here, if they are as interested as they are, please support us so that we get that meteoric rise. Rishi, over to you.
Yeah, I think the mistake would be to think that the rise has happened, you know, and there's not plenty more to go. I think India has one of the youngest populations in the world, actually, and pretty big population, obviously. So all those young people are going to bring new ideas and new stories and build on, you know, India's traditional storytelling to bear. So actually, what's interesting is what happens next, I think. In terms of speed of adaptation, I was at the Waves conference. I'm sure many other people here were also here at the Waves conference, and it feels like there's a new energy. The new energy has at its heart that this twin idea that in India there can be an absolute belief in the kind of craft of storytelling and the stories that everyone comes back to, but actually there can be very new ways of telling it. So that speed of adaptation will be very important. At the BFI, what we are seeing is that we are very interested in the ways that the UK and India can collaborate. Very recently been lucky to see some amazing films come around which are UK-India collaborations, from All We Imagine is Light, which did very well at Cannes, to Sister Midnight, Santosh and others. Actually, this stuff has happened all the time, but I think if you look at these latest films, what's super interesting is the diversity of ways in which the interaction of storytelling can happen, from Indian crews to UK storytellers, but then diasporal storytellers coming in there as well, and sort of Indian expertise in the form of storytelling. You know, there's actually a hugely layered approach to collaboration that's very, very exciting.
That's interesting. And I think what's interesting is India's such a huge, diverse country, and we're seeing a lot of sort of regional content come out, sort of regional language content. What do you think makes those stories travel so well at the moment, and what sort of makes them so popular? Sort of like algorithm, luck, or do you think it's a sort of just the stories themselves?
I think technology plays a big role in shrinking the globe. And I think curiosity is the thing that makes this content travel. It makes this content interesting. When you look at the way we look at Indian restaurants, for instance, we've moved a long way from being a harbinger of doom for the stomach. And people are actually today talking about Indian cuisine as being hot cuisine that is great. And I think in that same context, our content is not seen as something that's isolating. It's actually seen as something that's very inclusive in the story. Because at the end of the day, you know, it's a story about a relationship. And irrespective of what part of the world we come from or what languages we speak, I think there's a beauty in being able to relate to emotion. Indian films tend to be more emotional. Regional or mainstream art house, I think at the end of the day, what really strikes and resonates is when the tuning fork is one that touches your heart. And I think that's something that there's a lot of authenticity we see in our regional cinema, which is being appreciated.
Rishi?
Yeah, I mean, maybe I'm being fanciful here, but I like to think there's a parallel between the UK and India in this respect. And when we've looked at how the world sees UK content, actually the way that films and TV in particular drive interest in visiting the UK and in understanding UK culture, and then the more you understand of UK culture and the different regional aspects of UK culture, the more that you want to see film and TV from there as well. I think that same virtuous cycle is happening in India. India's an amazing subcontinent to visit, to enjoy the various cultural parts of it, and now you can experience that in terms of the film and TV you see from there as well. And I'm not an expert in sort of Indian sort of cultural bureaucracy and the support there, but I've got to imagine, like in the UK, that there is it's the growth and the strength of regional governments and of regional centres of talent and development that's also encouraged this as well. There must be an infrastructure that's working to really build this. I mean, I can name, Collywood and Tollywood. These names are becoming known, and so actually that's all to the good because it increases the diversity of the brilliant content that we can all enjoy.
I think it's a combination. If I could just top up what Rishi said, and I think that we have really got strong leadership at the center that recognizes the power of the messages that our content puts forward. And I think exporting that content is one of the big agendas we take very seriously now. And at state level, you're quite right, Rishi. There's a lot of encouragement that is coming our way, but it's not enough. We need a lot more. And I think for that, a partnership that needs to be forged with global platforms and infrastructure that carry that content forward needs to be something we bring focus to. And I think that is one of the areas that we have a lot of work to do. I'm hoping BFI is one of those platforms that continues to support us and grows.
Definitely. The deal's being struck right here, it seems. Yes, let's go for it.
There you go.
So, Manisha, what do you think makes an international partner a good partner? What are you looking for?
It's an interesting question. We've done a couple of films with support internationally, one of them most recently being Mrs. Chatterjee versus Norway. And that was a film that we were up against a lot of challenges. Nobody wanted to back that story because they couldn't understand. When we took it to Indian funders, they turned around and said, what is the chance that people would know what Norway is? They know Switzerland, they know how to go on vacation in London. Who knows anything about Norway? Why do you want to tell a story about Norway? And it was right there, and I can tell you, when we put the message out, the Estonian government turned around and said, you know what, it's COVID, you're going to need infrastructure support, come, we'll give you a rebate, we'll help you, subsidize the cost of producing this, and help you with the production, and full props to them. So I think that when it's a story, and Estonia doesn't feature in the story at all. There was no presence of them. It was Norway that we were, gunning for. And I think that therein lies the opportunity when you see content creation as not just about promoting a destination or just about telling a story about a particular country or something that you believe is going to resonate with the cliches that one assumes a consumer would take to. I think Mrs. Chatterjee versus Norway is a story about Indian immigrants in Norway, a film that was made by Indian producers with the support of Estonia, and which found an audience all over the world, which is fantastic, really.
And I know, Rishi, at the BFI, you're also trying to encourage international collaboration. What are you seeing on the ground at the moment? What do you think makes a good international partnership?
I mean, I think first of all, it's enormously important to us. We want to be a country that's sort of open to the world and to cultural exchange. And yes, there's a trade element to that. These industries, cultural, creative industries, are big business, but actually the simple act of cultural exchange is very, very important. I think two things stick in my mind when I think about what makes these partnerships work. One is vision, and the other is know-how. The vision is very important, and really just building on your point there. You've got to, you can't break it down to just a balance sheet of this will work and this won't work. You have to have some kind of vision as to what makes the real creative chemistry work when you make international collaboration work. And I was really encouraged with the independent filmmakers who've recently done recent work for the first time, UK production companies in India. Right. They're really, really enthusiastic to go back and do more. And actually, because they have this vision that there's more stories to tell and more interesting avenues to explore. And the know-how side is, you know, whether it be film or TV or video games, getting the financing together, making a project work is intensely complicated, very hard work, and you need partners with the kind of know-how to help you navigate these international things. We are starting to see really encouraging between UK and India things like, you know, the international treaties and co-production arrangements have more take-up, as well as the kind of incentives. So on a practical level, that know-how plus the infrastructure is, I think, that it's definitely there. Otherwise, nothing would happen. But the vision is really gratifying to see people come along and take up.
Mm-hmm. So I want to ask you both about AI. Obviously, AI in the arts, huge topic. Manisha, we'll start with you. What do you think? What do you think about AI in the arts? Do you think that there's a day in the future where you get a script written by AI and you want to produce it?
Well, I wouldn't be averse to it. I'll be honestly very cautious and equally optimistic, because I think that AI at the end of the day is built by what we've fed into it. And its interpretation perhaps would be another original or another definition of original. You know, I like that wink. That was nice. You just stole my cue there. But what is original at the end of the day? I mean, there are interpretations of Shakespeare all over. There are interpretations of our great epics, Indian epics all over. So we just saw a segment which talked about gaming, which was based on some of that. And I think that's fantastic. So I think embracing technology, it takes me back to the time where more recently, about 10 years ago, when digital cameras came in and filmmakers said, no way, it's only film that we will make content on. And suddenly you found ourselves turning around and saying, now I want to see how many people use film. So as a producer, it's a sword that we walk on, but I'm happy to turn around and say that as controversial as that sounds, I wouldn't be averse to the idea of listening to a script generated on AI.
Would you be worried about sort of losing that human element that you talked about earlier?
Not really. Again, like I said, it's something that's tutored by human experience and human insight. So I think if we were to see it in light of that, it would be it's curiosity that's driving me right now, and so with caution and curiosity, definitely would explore it.
Interesting. Rishi, what do you think?
Yeah, it's a good timing to ask me the question. We've just, a couple of weeks ago, published the BFI's report into AI in the screen sector, called Perspectives and Paths Forward, which is a summary of everything we've seen happening at the moment, and a roadmap for how we think it should be taken forward. And I think to that extent, look, it is a tool that we see having two things: increasing disruption to standard ways of doing things, and some increasing opportunities as well, really interesting opportunities. And actually, the way forward for us is how you balance those things. I was at a talk once, I was talking about AI, and someone asked me a question, and they said, a little bit similar to yours, but more specific, they said, will AI write Dark Side of the Moon? You know, this classic 60s, I think, 70s maybe, album that stood the test of time. And I think my answer was, well, two things here. You know, first is nobody's setting out with that intention. People want human-led stories. That's what they want. AI can create anything. Accidentally, it might create something that passes for Dark Side of the Moon, but it's not. There's no intentionality there. You need some human intention there. And the second thing is, well, I think you're doing yourself a disservice if you're trying to use AI to kind of ape what human beings already have done. Actually, it's a whole different way of making things. It can produce some efficiencies, and efficiencies everybody will take and grab and use, and that's fine. But if you're going to use it creatively, you should expect it to do something different from what human beings can produce. And so it's not about replacing human creativity. It's about reinforcing it.
And what? Oh,
sorry, we just found what we disagreed on, right?
Go on.
See? We were worried outside whether we'd find something to disagree on. Oh, we did now.
Yeah, true.
I wanted to ask
Civilized, though, that's quite good.
Very.
In this nice setting.
Nice.
Yeah, it's a good way to disagree.
what do you think that the difference that you're talking about that sort of looks like in practice?
Between human and AI creativity.
No, as in when you talk about sort of AI creating a different type
Yeah.
of output.
Well, I mean, a very simple thing to say is, at the moment, AI is a people pleaser. By definition it is, and that's written into the whole safeguards. It's put there. And actually, when you look at some of the best creatives, they're not necessarily people pleasers. They can be lovely people, but there's an element of wanting to stretch boundaries, to do something that goes against the grain. So I think that's just one example of where AI can be a real spur. One person that I know who works there calls it the wild writer. It might produce an idea you've not thought of before, but it doesn't have, I think, the full suite of what we call human creativity, and it hasn't been designed to deliver that.
And at the moment, I know tech is changing so fast, but how are you using tech at the moment in sort of creative and production processes?
Well, I mean, it is driving efficiencies for us in terms of our inputs. One of the biggest challenges we face in our business is that the ambition to make films or content is always bigger than the budget. So anything that enables efficiency, so we use a lot of it where it comes to the documentation processes that are required in production, the kind of speed with which we're able to create breakdowns. I'm getting technical here, but the processes that we deploy, we're already seeing about 20 to 30% efficiencies coming in saving time and cost, in embracing some AI-led efficiency, which is heartening actually. And I don't think it's really causing us that much in terms of job losses. I think if there is a threat of job loss, I think it's going to be mine, because the producer is the one who is most dispensable in this process. However, having said that, I think what's interesting is that AI used right is able to really, to Rishi's point, really strengthen the hands of the creator and achieve that ambition, which the budget sometimes doesn't allow.
Rishi?
So we know our strong feeling, people don't really talk about this very much, but our strong feeling is that the large studios are experimenting a lot with AI and also its combination with different technologies.
True.
And at every stage of what we call the pipeline as well of work, from the very administration side, so organizing your daily rushes. AI is actually pretty good at that. It's not something anyone talks about, but it's a ready-made task for it. Through to, yes, ideation and generating ideas as well. We also look at the kind of emerging creator end, and so far for our film funds, about 10 to 15% we think of people who start early stage filmmakers who are starting a project intend to use AI in some way. Often it's about just checking function on scripts or and storyboarding. We see those numbers growing, and they're going to grow and grow and grow. There's other technologies as well as AI, and actually they're going to be very important in the whole screen sector as well. So in virtual production, yes, there's been a boom, and then it's oscillated a bit. But actually, the latest developments in virtual production are making the technology, we think, much more accessible for lower budget films. And we're seeing, one of the Oscar-winning films was made entirely in Blender, which is again a very accessible piece of technology. So we think there's been growth in accessible technology as well.
Yeah,
Fantastic. I have one more very quick question for you both. I think we have about 30 seconds left. But have you seen anything recently, film or TV, that you wish you had worked on?
I think, well, I can do two things. I can say I didn't work on it, but actually the BFI did. But a film called Bird by Andrea Arnold, which is a beautiful, beautiful film. And a lot of films seem to come out recently about father-daughter relationships, and I think that really resonates with me. So yeah.
For me, it would be the show Adolescent.
Oh yeah.
And I thought it was just incredible, the impact and how rapidly the show found itself enduring across markets. And it was just the simplicity of a human relationship, parenting. And that's all it takes, to my point earlier. which is it's not about the language, it's not about the packaging, it's really about the emotion that a story brings out. And that's what really helps us hopefully make those meteoric rises happen.
I think sadly that's all we've got time for, but thank you both very much.
Great.
For talking today.
Thank you. To introduce us.
Okay, it's time for another wonderful conversation. The cultural equation, India across time, tradition, and trends. And it gives me enormous pleasure to welcome onto the stage a modern day philosopher who I know is passionate about rethinking education, spirituality, and social impact. Big round of applause for Nitesh Gore.
Thank you.
Nitesh, we've got 15 minutes. We've got a lot to get through. It's going to be a challenge, but let's do it. You've written a couple of books, the second one, Before Religion. Give us a sense, Nitesh, of this book and how it offers a different take on the role that ancient Indian religion and spirituality plays in this modern world we live in.
Yeah, thank you. I think the key reason why I wrote that book was essentially this notion that I feel is really lacking. Everybody talks about this idea of, you know, I'm spiritual but not religious, and it's becoming a big trend. Well, this was the case in ancient India millennia ago. And this idea of how do we structure that conversation so that we can move beyond sectarian notions of religion towards not just a tolerant approach to other religions, but an accepting and embracing one. And that's essentially the notion behind that book.
Tell us then, what aspects of the Vedic worldview do you think are relevant in today's world for people who, yes, are speaking a more spiritually aligned life, but maybe those who aren't?
Yeah. I think the thing that strikes me so profoundly about the Vedic Upanishadic approach is that it starts a priori faith. So like it doesn't assume belief or faith in a concept, in a book, in an instruction, as opposed to looking and reflecting on the human condition, our own experience, that allows us the window into spiritual truth. And I think that fundamental change in approach leads to very different conversations.
Yeah, what sort of different conversations?
You come into those conversations open-minded, right? You come into that understanding that mine is not the only truth that I experience. So you know, you've probably heard of this, the old story of the blind men touching different parts of the elephant. So they're all touching different parts of the elephant, and they all experience very different things, and it's impossible for them to accept the other person's perspective unless they have the concept of the elephant. As soon as you have the concept of the elephant, then I can understand I'm touching the trunk, you're touching the tusk, and we're touching the same thing. But without that, it's a very difficult conversation to have.
Yes, I love that. We're here to talk about politics, leadership, innovation, technology, science, culture, creativity. You are a leader, you are a philosopher, you're a chief executive, Nitesh. What's the relevance of these philosophical traditions, Vedanta, yoga, Dharma, in shaping those things, which is so key to the India Global Forum, in shaping leadership, in shaping education, and broadly in shaping society as well?
Yeah, I'm focused on two main areas. One is education, and then the other is wealth creation. So I think in both of these spaces, without the notion of spirituality, they are essentially empty. They feel empty. And the lack of, so for example, in the education system, we know the education system is broken at a very fundamental level. We know what the issues are. We're very good at diagnosis in the education system.
Yeah.
We're very short on cures. So, and that's because we want to exclude spirituality from the conversation, because it gets all religious. And we don't like the idea of being religious. And therefore, to my earlier point, how do you have a spiritual conversation without it getting uncomfortable, because it's getting all religious now, particularly in an education context where you've got young people who might be, you know, whatever, you don't want to kind of influence them in inappropriate ways. So I think that conversation, that ability to engage with a spiritual subject without becoming sectarian, is an approach that the Vedic tradition has that is very, very powerful, because that was ancient India. That was the culture and the fabric of ancient India. So that's on the education side.
Yeah.
And another aspect to this is wealth creation. And, you know, a while back, I set up something called the Dow Jones Dharma Indexes, and now we're working on the Dharma Endowment Fund.
Yeah.
And the key thing for me here is that if you take a purely kind of a Milton Friedman approach to economics, it's essentially that greed is good. It's all, you know, capitalism is all about individual shareholder benefit, and it serves no other purpose. There is no responsibility that comes along with that. Whereas the Vedic approach is fundamentally different. Wealth is not agnostic. Wealth has purpose. Wealth has responsibility that accompanies it. And therefore, what are the dharmic lenses through which we can engage with wealth in a way that is productive, constructive, progressive? And that's why I think those types of conversations based on...
And what are the dharmic lenses in which we can engage with wealth? Let's dig into your Dharma Endowment Fund. Can you elaborate for our audience on how this idea shapes your work? And what does dharmically aligned actually mean in practical terms?
Okay, so in terms of the need for an endowment fund, so for those who are unaware, essentially an endowment fund is a corpus of money which is not spent, but the income that's built year on year is distributed to good causes. So that's the notion of an endowment fund, and there isn't a substantial global dharmic-based endowment fund that exists today. So Harvard's endowment fund started with a couple of billion. It's now in its 70, 80 billion. The Mormon church, there are about 15 million Mormons in the world. They have a $125 billion endowment fund. So it's insane and ridiculous that the dharmic traditions do not have an endowment fund. So that was something which was very important for me, and we started working on that with a few colleagues to get this off the ground. And the notion is that you have negative screens and you have positive screens. So the negative screens are things which, if a project does, then a dharmic investment wouldn't be appropriate. And then there are positive screens. So for example, a negative screen might be based on the principle of ahimsa, that we don't want to do harm, and therefore something like the meat industry would be excluded. And a positive screen would be something like custodianship, based on the principle of Rita from the Rig Veda, about how do we encourage custodianship of the world, and therefore those types of projects would feature.
Is this Dharma Endowment Fund going to be mentioned in the same breath as that Mormon Endowment Fund and Harvard in years to come?
Right.
What are your ambitions?
Well, right now, over the last year, we've just been setting up the concept. We wanted proof of concept at about $10 million just to prove to ourselves and others that the concept works. So we're about to actually make our first distribution from that initial idea, that seed. And this coming year or two, we'll be building up to 100 million, and our target is within 5 years to get to $1 billion.
Wow, that's big. That's big. Let's come back to the schools, because it's incredible what Nitesh is doing on the schools front. I'm talking about Avanti Schools Trust, 12 schools, 6,000 students. Just remind our audience, as you say, the education system here is broken. How does this fix the education system here?
Yeah, so I wouldn't be so bold as to say but we are making a contribution, for sure. And I think that's about in a couple of different ways.
By the way, I'll be so bold because already these schools, they're in the top 10% academically, and that's just part of what they offer. So they're doing remarkably well just on an academic basis, but they offer a lot more.
Yeah,
Sorry.
thank you. For us, it was about the point I made. We know from a human level, spirituality cannot be divorced from education. And yet that's what's happening. So the main contribution for the Avanti Schools Trust is to say, how does spirituality become a central focal point of education? What is the purpose of education? You know, is it simply the outcomes that you get at Key Stage 4 and 5? Or is there another purpose? And if there is another purpose, then name it. Is it just about character formation? And for us, there are these three strands. There's the educational excellence, there's character formation, and there's spiritual insight. These three things are the fundamental aspects of education. Without any of these three, we have a failing system. And therefore, for us, we have 7 religiously designated faith schools. They have a faith designation. And we have 5 schools which are not faith designated, but they have a spiritual ethos. So our contribution to the system, outside of the 12 schools that we have, is around how do we integrate our unique curriculum, yoga, meditation, a vegetarian diet, philosophy, religion, and ethics that isn't just focused on Rome and Greece. You know, how do we integrate that curriculum into the mainstream education system? Because as this in the Global Forum is all about, like the world is now bigger than it used to be in the sense that the children graduating from our schools have to have a global perspective. And the partnership with India is absolutely critical to that.
Yeah, tell us about the couple of schools we were talking before. There's a few schools which, these weren't the words you used, they were on their knees, and you were approached by the government to carry on the story.
Yeah, so these were of the worst performing schools in the country. Of the 10 worst performing schools in the country, these were 2 of them. And the Department for Education didn't have a solution for them. So a few years ago, they asked us to take these schools on. And we did. And we implemented our curriculum. We implemented the yoga. We implemented the meditation, the philosophy, religion, ethics curriculum. We implemented a very different way of education. And I'm very pleased to say that those schools are doing exceptionally well and are oversubscribed.
Wow. Which leads me to a question about the younger generation. What you're teaching, what you're offering, the tenets you're telling us about in your books, how accessible are they to a younger generation, which I think we could all agree is very, digitally focused, I'll call it. Some might say too focused. How accessible are they?
I spend a lot of time, as you can imagine, with students. And Key Stage 4, so GCSE and A-level students, in particular in the terms of the conversations that I have about these types of topics. And, I'll have all kinds of, so for example, the Andrew Tate thing kicked off, and I had a conversation with them about that, the digital pressures and the pressures that come with social media and all of those types of things. I'm incredibly impressed at how articulate, interested, and engaged these young people are with these topics, they're not blind to this stuff. And I often feel that the grandparents are more addicted to their phones than some of these students are. I mean, it's not just about students.
Any grandparents here? Any grandparents here? Put your hand up. Are you addicted to your phone? No grandparents here. Wow, you're a young audience.
I can see a couple.
Yeah. It's
But,
okay.
you know, they are aware. They are engaged with it, and it's our job, isn't it, to create the forums and to facilitate the conversation.
I love this idea of India and India's contemporary story being one of 1,000 voices and 1 billion perspectives. Let's finish off, Nitesh, by talking about India, its voices, both contemporary and ancient. What do they have to offer in today's digitally complicated world? Digitally and complicated, not digitally complicated. Yeah.
I think one very important fundamental principle from the Vedic tradition is something in Sanskrit that's called yukta vairagya. And it's this notion that we don't have to just give up the world because it's not ours to start with. So the idea of giving it up is nonsensical. The Vedic tradition is all about how do I utilize something? How do I use everything in a way that is in connection with and progressing my spiritual insight? How does it facilitate that? And that is, at a very basic level, a core idea or aspect of spiritual life is how do I connect every moment? So meditation, for example, is not just the 20 minutes I do in the morning, close my eyes and I meditate. Meditation is supposed to be a moment-to-moment experience.
Yes.
And I think that the Vedic tradition has something powerful to say to that in this point. How do we use technology in a way that progresses, that has purpose, as opposed to is just a utility?
Isn't Nitesh brilliant? I could talk to him for a long time, but we were only granted 15 minutes. Let's give him a massive round of applause. Thank you very much. We're going to do a photo. Thanks, Nitesh. You're free to go. I'll see you again later. Okay, we're going to introduce you now. Maybe you've been introduced to the idea of the UK-India Future Forum. Here's a little video about it.
As the UK and India enter a new era of strategic partnership, the free trade agreement isn't just a milestone, it's a launchpad. This partnership is emerging as a powerful force for global innovation, and now is the time to lead it. The UK-India Future Forum is your gateway to this new reality. A high-impact platform that turns ambition into action and opportunities into outcomes. From cutting-edge pharma to frontier technologies, the UK-India Future Forum drives meaningful engagement across sectors where the FTA makes the biggest impact. With a bold new framework for trade and cooperation taking shape, now is the time to connect, co-create and lead. As a UK-India Future Forum member, you don't just attend events, you shape them. Gain exclusive access to the most influential leaders across business and government. Leverage curated intelligence, personalized connections, and unmatched visibility. This isn't just networking, it's high-level influence with real-world results. UK-India Future Forum, where opportunity meets action. Become a member. Be part of shaping the future.
Before I invite our next guest onto the stage, I want you to get to know him a little bit more. Spiritual leader Gauranga Das with this short video. Have a watch of this.
In a world chasing success, one man chose self-realization. An IIT Bombay graduate with a clear future laid out. He turned away from the world of commerce and walked toward eternal truths, joining ISKCON and dedicating himself to a mission of service, education, and leadership. A monk, a mentor, a messenger of ancient wisdom for modern times. From the Govardhan Eco Village, a global beacon of sustainable living, he brings a message that transcends religion, culture, and background. A TEDx speaker, a UN-recognized sustainability leader, and a revered spiritual leader. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Gauranga Das.
I don't need to say anything else. You're going to come onto the stage, Gauranga. You're going to speak for about 10 minutes, 13 minutes. Then I'm going to have a chat with you, and then you're going to have a chance to ask him some questions. So we've got an exciting 45, 55 minutes lined up for you. The stage is yours.
Thank you very much, Manoj Bhai, for inviting me this afternoon. I'm going to speak on the three foundational principles for seva, or service without selfish considerations, which dharma is comprised about. Dharma is a much talked about term, but here we are facing a world where we have 78 million Indians who have emigrated from Bharat in the last 1990 to 2020 period. Today we have 36 million Indians globally, almost 16 million NRIs, 20 million Indians of Indian origin. Out of the 500 Fortune 500 companies in America, 22 of them are led by Indian CEOs who employ almost 1.7 million people with a net worth of $1 trillion. And 72 out of the 650 startups in USA which have become unicorns are led by Indians. More than 60% of the hotels in America are owned by Indians, and what to speak of the 65,000 businesses which are being run in the UK by Indians, and a total of $37 billion worth of business which all of them are doing. 9,000 Indian restaurants and 2 million people visiting these restaurants every week, enjoying the Indian cuisine. So the point is, Indians across the world are having so much of impact in terms of artha or economy. I stand here to testify that Indians have a powerful role to play in the transmission of dharma. And today, I want to help you understand in very simple terms, in just 10 minutes, what is dharma. Dharma means four things. The first principle of dharma in Sanskrit, as they call it, samman, or respect. Respect for the will of the Supreme, respect for the Supreme, respect that there is a power greater than us. And that is encapsulated in this beautiful verse from Ishopanishad. Ishavasyam idam sarvam yat kinchit jagatyam jagat tena tyaktena bhunjita magradakasya svidhanam. That each one of us has a quota, and we all have to abide by the universal laws, and we cannot operate independent of that. People ask me this question, that in a world today which is ridden by so much of ecological destruction, where air pollution causes 4.2 million premature deaths, almost 2.3 billion people across the world are water distressed, 2 billion tons of plastic waste, 300 million tons of plastic waste, out of which 8 million tons is thrown directly into the oceans. We have huge problem of people addicted to internet. 230 million people globally are addicted to the social media, 70 million in Bharat alone. The teenagers are spending 7 hours a day average. 1 in 7 people globally are mentally depressed in anxiety. 9 in 100,000 are committing suicide. The total loss globally because of mental health crisis is almost $1 trillion. In this context, many people ask me this question, Swamiji, you are from IIT. How did you land up as a sadhu? Hua kya? Some relationship problem? Some breakup? For your information, I went to the IIT in the same batch as Sundar Pichai. 89-93, he went to Kharagpur, I went to Mumbai. Few years back, we met at some wedding and we exchanged notes. And the first comment he made to me was, "You look younger than me." And I said, naturally, because you deal with Google, which creates stress, I deal with God, which relieves stress. So how my journey began was when I was in IIT, I had a friend of mine who tried to commit suicide. I was shocked because he was one of the toppers. When I asked him, why did you try to commit suicide? He said very candidly, in every exam I would get the gold medal. In this exam I got the silver medal. I got the second rank. I could not handle it because I was addicted to being at the top. In the same exam, I had 4 or 5 of my friends who failed 4 or 5 subjects, and they were moving around the campus peacefully, blissfully, blessing others. Be cool in life. What's the problem? And I asked them, you guys are so shameless. How come you're moving around? And they said, our philosophy in life is simple. Entering college is our job. Taking us out of college is college's job. So that brought me to understand that yes, we are losing a major chunk here in terms of experience. That experience is defined not just by our expertise, but also by our expectation. And that's how I started studying the Gita, and I understood that stress is the gap between expectation and reality. And many times I may think I control reality, but the Gita says there is free will, there is evil, and there is God's will. And that is what is known as respect or samman. The second principle of dharma is samanvay, which basically means restraint. From our side, what is expected? Restraint. The Bhagavad Gita says, Nirashiryadajittatma tyakta sarva parigraha shariram kevalam karma kurvan napnoti kilbisha. All of us have a responsibility to restrain ourselves, respecting the needs of others and respecting the laws of God. And when we do not do that, we start engaging in a situation where we have practically no control over our habits. The climate change crisis is looming large. It's very clear through data that if you follow a plant-based diet, you have 100 times lesser impact on CO2 emissions. Today, across the world, almost 10% of the land is used for agriculture. Bharat has 2.5% of the world's land area, 18% of the world's population. And interestingly enough, if you look at the patterns across the world, then a country like South Africa has 220 kilograms of meat per capita. EU has 110, US has 128 kg, and India still has 3.1 kg per capita. And if the world follows the diet which people are following across the world and you eliminate India from the map, then the land area required for the same agriculture we are having would be 140% more. And if the world followed the Bharatiya diet, then the total land area required would be only 40%. And if India got influenced by the global diet and starts following that, then India itself would need 6 times more land. And therefore, dear friends, many times we do not understand the political, the financial, and the geopolitical ramifications of culture. Restraint, habits. Discipline is a fusion of intention with action. I was giving a lecture at a program in Yerawada jail in Pune. It's a very famous jail, you must have heard about it. I love jail programs. You know why? Because audience is guaranteed. No RSVP is required. So I was giving a talk. After the talk, I said, any questions? One prisoner raised his hand. He said, I have a question, but I will come on the stage and ask the question. I got a little bewildered. I asked the commissioner of police, who is he? And the commissioner whispered in my ear, he has committed 12 murders. I said, am I going to be 13th? He says, no, don't, let him come. He came on the stage, asked this question, I gave the reply. And then I asked him, at such a young age, how could you commit so many crimes? He said, when I'm blinded by anger, it's a blackout. No discrimination. Today, the education system is focused only on one word, success, Vijay. But in the dharmic tradition, the focus was not just Vijay, but it was beginning with Vinay, which is humility. Then Vairagya, detachment. Then Vivek, discrimination. Then Vijay. And therefore we are missing a very important element. So that's the second element. Samman, respect. Second, Samanvay, which is restraint. Third element is Sneha, or reciprocation. That you have to reciprocate with others around you. Consider others also to be part of your family. Prime Minister Modi coined during the G20 Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam, which comes from the famous verse Ayam nija paro veti gananam laghu chetasam udaracharitanam tu Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam. To think that he is different from me, it's a very narrow perspective. We consider the world to be a global family. And therefore, one of the key principles of Vedic culture has been considering the entire world to be a family today, but the whole world is suffering one of the biggest challenges, that we have given up the idea and culture of giving and forgiving. And because of that, conflicts are growing. Family as an institution is breaking down. I was in a program at a college outside of India. I gave the talk, and after the talk, a young boy came up to me. He was not Indian, talked to me in Hindi. I looked at him and said, you don't look Indian. How do you speak Hindi? He said, I grew up in a multimillionaire family. When I was 2 years old, my father was divorced. So when I was 17, I asked my dad, you've given me everything in life except the experience of a family. Real wealth is to have those things which money cannot buy. Please, let me have the experience of family. His dad said, well, I'm too old to give you the experience. Today, a country like Luxembourg has 88% divorce rate, Spain has 65% divorce rate, France has 55% divorce rate, Russia has 51% divorce rate, America has 46% divorce rate, the global divorce rate is 44%, India still has the lowest divorce rate at 1%, but if we do not invest in family as an institution, we are losing it very, very rapidly. This gentleman came to Varanasi, saw a plate somewhere saying that paying guest allowed in front of a house. He went inside the house, asked the people, allow me to be inside your house as a paying guest just for 2 years, just to experience what is the warmth and the love and the affection of family. If you allow me to experience the family for just 2 years, every month I'll give you a monthly rental of 1 lakh rupees, 100,000 rupees. That family said, why 2 years? Stay whole life. And then they said, if you have other friends also who want to experience, we could invite them too. Dear friends, what we invest in, we get the returns. Are we investing enough in our social institutions, in our family as an institution? Goldman Sachs came with a report that 2015 to 2025, the infrastructure investments in Bharat would be almost $1.4 trillion, out of which $800 billion would come from family savings. If there is no family feeling, why there will be family savings? So, unlike popular conception, people don't realize one of the biggest contributors to Indian economy is the homemaker, the wife, who is doing her job very quietly but robustly. A round of applause. So then, the last is when we go beyond Samman, respect, Samanvay, restraint, Sneha, which is, reciprocation, we come to the last, which is Seva, that is responsibility. So that's the holistic perspective of dharmic responsibility, which is based on the principle of Samman, respect, and Samanvay, which is restraint, and Sneha, which is reciprocation. Then it is complete and holistic. This Seva is based on selfless service, service without selfish consideration. And the important thing in a Seva is defining the intention. The dharmic traditions always focus on the intention first before moving and jumping impatiently to action. And therefore, the whole idea of the dharmic tradition is purifying the intention to go beyond intention of desire, fear, and come at least to the level of duty, if not love. When I joined as a monk, I was sent to the kitchen, and one of my other monk friends joined after a month, and he was also sent to the kitchen. I asked him to make chapatis. After 3 days, he came and started complaining to me. And he said, I'm a big speaker in my village. I joined ISKCON to be a speaker, not to roll chapatis. I said, why you're telling me? I'm also making chapatis. So what's the point you and me talking? But anyway, every 3 days he would complain. After a month, he brought his suitcase and said, I'm going home. I said, why? He said, you guys didn't recognize my talent. I joined to be a speaker, not to make chapatis. 10 years later, I met him at an event. He came running to me. He said, after I left the ashram and the temple, I got married. After marriage, my wife got back pain every day at home. I am only making chapatis. Maybe I should have been patient. So Seva means you are subduing your pleasures to your purpose. And that's the whole idea of selflessness. Every relationship has 4 challenges: scarcity, impediment, discomfort, unhappiness, but still the sincere desire to serve continues. And that's what Bharatiya dharmic traditions have always been focused on. Dear friends, I'm very glad that today Manoj ji has invited me to share with you Dharma 101, that unless there is Samman, respect, unless there is Samanvay, restraint, unless there is Sneha, reciprocation, and unless there is Seva, which is genuine responsibility, there is no question of any Dharma. Dharma is not just a political narrative, it's an individual responsibility. Thank you so much.
And that's for you. That's a present. You sit there and I'll sit here. I have 2 words to say to my magnificent guest after that magnificent speech. 2 words, only 2 words. Happy birthday.
That was not on the script.
Am I allowed to say your age? He's younger than me, so that's it. How does it feel? How does it feel to have got this far? I can say that because we're basically the same age. How does it feel to have got this far?
It feels amazing. I never imagined that I'll be in saffron, but then I came across the Gita and that's how life changed. So taking care of so many people's lives, I have lost the count of the number of lives I have touched, and I feel proud and privileged that there is such an ocean of wisdom in our Vedic tradition which people are able to benefit from, and that's the reason I took the journey from technology to transcendence.
An ocean of wisdom in our Vedic tradition. Give me a word or a sentence that encapsulates it all. You've just given it's blown my head off, the 4 R's: respect, restraint, reciprocation, responsibility. I know we're just dipping our toes in it, especially me. I'm new to all this. Sum it up for us. Can you sum it up for us in a nutshell?
Yeah. Tolerance is to call off the war on reality. there is a reality. We have limited control. We may feel helpless. But the essence of all religious traditions is, even if you feel helpless, don't ever feel hopeless. So we are at the intersection between helplessness and hopelessness, and I stand in the middle with the torchlight of Vedic wisdom. I hope that helps.
It does help. And when there are so many religious traditions and many of us follow different religious paths, why did the Gita reach out to you and grab you? You graduated from IIT Bombay. You were heading to set up Google with Sundar Pichai. You were going to be a different man. You were going to look a lot older because you've kept your youth because of the path you've chosen. What was it that called out to you back when you were at IIT Bombay?
Yeah, actually, most of us in India have heard of the Gita, you know, and many people keep their children's name Arjun. But the fact is that very few actually study the Gita in detail. Like I remember when I was distributing the Gita, just an anecdote, and I showed the Gita to someone in the local train in Mumbai. And he looked at me and he said, "The Gita is for free, no?" I said, "No, it's for 70 rupees. Why should it be for free?" He looked at me and said, "Krishna spoke the Gita to Arjuna free. So why are you charging 70 rupees? I said, "Krishna spoke to Arjuna in Kurukshetra. This is Mumbai. 70 rupees is transport charge." So the fact is, Mark, that as many other Hindus, we have like more than 1 billion now on the planet, I was also not informed about the contents of the Gita. And many times it is not always the content, but the context which makes things very relevant. So no one ever presented the Gita to me in the right context.
So explain the importance of context.
Yeah. So the importance of context is the Gita explains in a very simple terms that all religions, however confused we may be about 31% of the population following Christianity, 23% following Islam, 15% following Hinduism, 8.5% following Buddhism, and everyone seems to be fighting and at conflict with each other. And the more you try to come nearer to religion, the more you seem to get bewildered by the amount of animosity and conflict from religious paths which seem to be teaching love. So you get bewildered and you take a step back and then you say what Nitesh just said, spiritual but not religious. But spiritual basically is healthcare. Religious means allopathy, naturopathy, Ayurveda, homeopathy, the various parts. So basically, all of spirituality is concerned with only 5 things. Like I visit conferences and I went to a conference on tourism as part of the Eco Village. So someone said, "Hey, you are a monk, what are you doing in a tourism conference?" I said, "Don't you know spirituality is also tourism?" He said, "No, I didn't think about it." I said, "Yes, because tourism means to take the body from one place to another place. Spirituality is to take the soul from one place to another place." So all traditions speak about 5 things. Where is the soul now? What is the destination of the soul after death? Third, what is the experience of the soul on reaching the destination? Fourth, what is the path the soul wishes to take to reach that destination? Fifth, what are the obstacles in that journey? So all my life I was intrigued about one problem which I thought I need to solve. You know that? That was, is death a solvable problem? That was bugging me all my life. Can you fix the problem of death? Because, you know, anything which you see, you want to fix it. The darkness, light, health, healthcare. So everybody's trying to fix problems. So death is a problem everyone is seeing, but after cremation, nobody is coming together to figure out Is this a problem which can be fixed? I thought there must be a solution. When I opened the Gita, I found the solution there. Not only there, all the religious traditions are actually in the main business of trying to fix the problem of death and helping the soul attain eternal life. So it's all about helping navigate the journey of the soul beyond death and then working backwards to live the life accordingly, which will help you get that destination. Just like you plan your career, you plan your education, you plan your travel in vacation, you work backwards by fixing the destination. That's how life is supposed to be led as per all religious traditions. And those who understand that never butt their heads with each other. They always have a cooperative attitude. Those who don't understand land up fighting.
On the subject of death, you hear, if you listen to the Indian traditions and any spiritual traditions, about the death of the ego, the death of the self, searching deep within. Can you just elaborate on all that for us in a few minutes? The importance of discovering your true self rather than this sensory experience that we all think is all there is.
Beautiful. That's a great question, Mark.
Thank you.
You would make a great student. There are three things which the Gita speaks about in the context of Arjun. So the name of the person whom Krishna speaks the Gita to, his name is Arjun. So Arjun is a warrior, very famous, very successful, very skilled, never lost a battle ever, like career record, 100%. So he was like whatever you would want your kid to be ever. So he had everything going right for him. So therefore, his swabhava or nature was of a kshatriya, of a fighter. His swadharma occupation was of a fighter. But then he went through a certain situation which caused identity crisis. And that's the situation which the Bhagavad Gita is trying to deal with. Identity crisis. So all of us create, through our efforts in life, 8 types of identities. Identity with our body, identity with husband or wife, identity with respect to our kids, identity with respect to money, identity with respect to our house, identity with respect to our vehicles, identity with respect to our power, influence, and identity with respect to social acceptance or rejection. Our entire life story is nothing but trying to manipulate and juggle and control these 8 identities. Like for example, one of my friends went to a conference and someone gave him a business card. On the card was written his name. Below the name was his educational qualification, which said PhD BF. He said, "What is this?" He said, "PhD but fail." He said, "What kind of card is this?" He said, "I never wanted to become PhD. My father wanted me to be PhD. Why? Because 2 of my other cousins were PhD. So what to do? Under social pressure I had to do. Then I had to leave because I couldn't deal with it. But then there was pressure, you should attend conferences. So to be honest, I wrote PhD BF. But you know what? Most people think the BF is a degree beyond PhD.
Of course, of course.
So how many times it happens that we make decisions in life because we may feel rejected. Someone is doing something more. Comparison is the thief of joy. And the 3 cancers the world is facing today is comparing, complaining, criticizing. And therefore, here the context is each of these 8 identities is constantly moving up and down like a pendulum from morning till night. And therefore the Gita and all spiritual traditions are all focused on one topic only. How to address the biggest challenge each one of us is facing, which is fear, anxiety, stress, trauma, depression. And all spiritual traditions say there is only one and only one cause of that fear. Fundamental cause of that fear is only one. What is that? Change in your identity. The change in your identity with respect to these 8. Why a visit to the doctor causes trauma? When you come out with a report and the report says tumor. Why does that one word tumor or the one word cancer cause so much of anxiety? Because it has shifted your identity. My identity while entering the doctor's cabin was my body is healthy. When you come out, your identity is my body is sick. So your identity with respect to the body has changed. When there is a separation between a couple, it causes trauma. Why? Identity has changed. When the kids fail the exam, why does it cause trauma to the parents? There is an identity crisis. So morning till night, we are just trying to control these 8, and therefore we are experiencing anxiety. If you know it's going to be a cold British weather, you wear a coat, you prepare yourself. When you know from morning till night you are going to be subjected to change, how are we preparing ourselves to create immunity against that change? Prayer is the immunity which we create to prepare ourselves for that change. And all traditions, all religions talk about prayer. But because of AI and because of tech, we have stopped taking that seriously, and therefore we have made ourselves vulnerable to change which was always there, will always be there. Now we are only dealing with faster change, and we are dealing with less prepared individuals to cope with that change. Therefore, contemplative practices were always there to create the immunity for the soul to prepare for that change. When you realize beyond these 8 identities, I have a 9th identity, which is I am a soul, I have a relationship with the Supreme Soul, and that relationship is through service. That service is called dharma. Because the soul is eternal, it is called Sanatan in Sanskrit. Because the Supreme is eternal, he is called Sanatan in Sanskrit. So the relationship of service between the soul and super soul is called Sanatan Dharma. So it is not a political buzzword, but it is a deep, sincere individual responsibility of each one of us, which we have forgotten in the pursuit of a lot of artha. But Manoj Bhai has brought us together to help us reflect on how we can go back to our Sanatan Dharma. Thank you.
I want to offer it to you, wonderful audience. We've got 10 minutes, so put your hand up, tell us your name, where you're from, and fire away. Ask your question. We've got about 10 minutes, so let's try and get as many questions as we can. Gentleman there with his hand.
Go from the back.
Oh, we're going to go from the back, and then we'll come forward to you, so yeah.
Thank you very much. I'm Hemang from Washington, D.C. First of all, thank you, Manoj, for this wonderful event. I have a question. Once my friend in Boston told me that any question that you have in your life about your profession, your personal life, anything, you will find an answer in Gita somewhere. So, but I have the copy of Gita, which is really a big book. Is there any version that you recommend to people like us, which are not the spiritual animal, I call the non-spiritual animals? Any version that you recommend for us to go through it and get answers in life? Thank you.
Thank you, Hemang Bhai. So, I can recommend to you the Gita which I have read, and interestingly, when Srila Prabhupada, the founder of ISKCON, when he landed in London many years ago, so one reporter asked him that, Swami, what brings you to London? Why you have come to London? And Swami Prabhupada very nonchalantly, he said, Well, the British, for 300 years came to India and took quite a few things, but they forgot one thing which I came to deliver, that is the Bhagavad Gita. And since that time, ISKCON across the world has distributed in more than 80 languages, 550 million Bhagavad Gitas all over the world. And people from different countries and contexts are connecting because there is a method there on how to build resilience, right? And therefore, if you go on a very simple website, open source, vedabase.io, www.vedabase.io, you will have all our books which we are distributing for, with a price. Hardback we are distributing for a price or every year. Almost 10 million books every year we sell. But still, entire repository is available free also, online on this. If you want audiobooks, there is another app called Transcend app. And on all the platforms you can download Transcend app, where all the literatures are also available in terms of audiobooks. So therefore, all of these literatures are available for us to experience, apply in our life. And as you rightly said, when we speak about Gita has answers for all professions, I would say that the university system is training everybody in skill. But what the Gita is teaching you is in the will. Arjuna had the skill, but he lost the will. How to get that will is important. And I was sharing this yesterday, that I was traveling to Kharagpur IIT for an event with two of my American friends, and we landed in Kolkata. And when we came out of the airport, we were welcomed with garlands, and we were told Bengal Band that day. So Bengal Band means vehicle will not move. So I asked my organizers, if it is Bengal Band in 3 hours we have to drive to Kharagpur, program must be cancelled. He said, no, program is on. We have come to pick you up in ambulance. And the ambulance will go and you will join that. So I was entering the ambulance and my two friends from America asked me, why are we entering ambulance? I said, that's a great question, but the answer will take me half an hour because I have to explain what is Bandh to you. So I said, you sit in the back, I'll sit in the front, I'll manage anyone who tries to create some trouble. So on the way, a group of people stopped us, a mob stopped us, and someone came to me and said, I want to see who's behind. I said, go and see. So this guy looks behind, and my two American friends with garlands around their neck after taking breakfast were sleeping peacefully behind. This guy looks in and said, may their soul rest in peace. And within 3 hours, we reached Kharagpur. So many times what happens in life is, worry is the interest we pay on loan we have never taken. So many times we start worrying so much without even anything happening. The Gita, through Arjuna, is teaching us that Arjuna had a situation where he just felt helpless, but he heard the Gita for 1 hour and it prevented him from becoming hopeless. Today, when a person is in psychological pain, he goes to the psychiatrist who tells him, pop the pill. But the ancient Vedic wisdom says, forget the pill, change the perspective. You can't change the size of the skyscraper, but you can go up 40,000 feet from the airplane and the skyscraper looks like a matchbox. So therefore the size of the problem may not change, but when you change the perspective, it becomes manageable. And you can live the next day and move on in life. That's what philosophy does. Thank you.
Thank you. Another question. Yeah, keep the questions brief. We'll try and get as many in as we can.
Yeah, hi. My name is Dr. Yash Gupta. I'm a surgeon, 40 years in the NHS and also in the private practice. I was invited to Harvard about 12 years ago, and there I went to a temple, ISKCON temple, and came across certain verses which changed my perspective and they were scientific verses. And I'll just quote one of them from Bhagavad Gita, which Gurung Das Ji has so nicely. And this is very scientific, and people don't understand how much science there is in our scriptures. In fact, I wrote a book called Science in Sanskrit Scriptures. And this is just a verse explaining to Arjuna that Sahastrayuk Paryantam Ahuryat Brahmano Vidu Ratrim Yug Sahastrantam Teho Ratri Vidujana, means 1,000 yuga have one day of Brahma, and such is the duration of night. And one yuga is the Chatra Yuga, which is 4.32 million years. So 1,000 is 4.32 billion years. And same is the duration of night is 8.64 billion years. And in our scriptures, it says Brahma lives for 100 years. 100 times 360 times 8.64 billion years comes to 311 trillions and 40 billion years, which is the age of universe. One kalpa.
Fantastic. Great.
Thank you.
Very inspirational. I hope many other people also study the Gita like you.
Yeah. Another question. Yes, sir. Right here, yes, sir. Stand up. Yeah.
Sorry, just a quick question. Pronounce
And then you, yeah.
And happy birthday, by the way. I'm just following on the theme on the identity crisis. Also in the Gita, you mentioned Arjuna's having an identity crisis because he has many duties, like we all have. We're brothers and sisters, fathers and mothers, and husband and wives. How do you then do each of those duties and still have to do it in a dharmic way?
Beautiful question. This is one of the challenges the world is facing, that the typical leadership training which is happening, negotiation skills, delegation skills, this skill, that skill. If a decision has to be made in 5 to 7 seconds, will all of these different skills being taught actually help us in that way? Or should be fixed at the core and then everything falls into place? So therefore, the important thing in the Bhagavad Gita is Arjuna was faced with the challenge where he saw his grandfather and he saw his teacher and then he saw his enemy. So Arjuna had a conflict with 3 identities. Am I a soldier who's supposed to kill the enemy? Am I a grandson who's supposed to love the grandfather? Am I a student who's supposed to respect the teacher? And so the context of the Gita is internal conflict is more traumatic than external conflict. Internal conflict, if unresolved, leaves you with no energy to fight the external conflict. So resolve those internal conflicts and battles first. And that the philosophy helps us. 3 things. First is Sukriti. When you do seva, you get blessings. That gives you second. What is that? Kripa. That is blessings. And third is seva. That is Sukriti, seva, Sukriti, Kripa, which gives Vivek, discrimination. So Vivek is a very interesting term. It is not just, it is not brain, it is not information. It is wisdom. The ability to make the right decision comes as a result of the various kinds of seva you have done, which accumulates as Sukriti, and the blessings which you receive, that translates in due course of time. So then you make that. So if you see Prime Minister Modi's interview with Lex Friedman, he talks about his spiritual journey so beautifully and the kind of tapasya and seva he did to a lot of saintly personalities. And when you see him making decisions, apart from the fact that he is very widely experienced in the social dimension, but there is a major dimension of the deep spiritual practices he has engaged in the past and also in the present. So it's all an accumulated thing. Thank you.
Well, thank you. This is the final question. I'm sorry, this is the last question.
Thank you for that. And today morning somebody was having a 60th birthday. I wished him saying happy 60th birthday, but many more to come. He said, why? He said, every day is a birthday for you, so have a celebration. Thank you very much and happy birthday to you. So I'm an AI teacher. I do a bit of teaching. Recently, somebody was asking what is a large language model. I asked him, do you know what is Vedas? He said, no. I said, read about Vedas. These are the biggest LLMs. We know about it until Sam Altman or OpenAI launched them. So you go and start reading them, and actually you need to have a small command where you type it, you get the entire ritual of it. So my introduction to Bhagavad Gita was way back. I was in 5th, 6th class. Somebody gave me toffees to read for them. She was my grandmother. He said, read it for me. I didn't understand a single bit of it that time. For toffees and other things, I started reading. Dushta Ketus Chekitana, Samaveda, Yahotsava, Mahamaka, Pandava Shaila. Whenever we read it, when I lost my father at a very young age and my brother also during COVID, Bhagavad Gita is the only thing which helped me to take forward, saying that this is what is all life all about, and we are just a journey, and a journey has to pass through it. Thank you very much, and just want to tell them that LLMs are not something which we talk a lot, but Vedas are the summaries of all the knowledge which we have. We need to just extract the proper command prompt. Thank you very much.
Thank you. So for us, AI, artificial intelligence, from the Bhagavad Gita's perspective, AI is always inspired. That's what the Gita is inspiring us to be, always inspired in all situations. That is called Sthita Pragya or equanimity. So end by saying that accept the summary of Bhagavad Gita is accept the reality, collaborate with humility, and operate with equanimity. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Big round of applause. Thank you. Thank you very much. I think we're going to do a photo and then. Yeah. Let's get Manoj up here. Let's have the two of you. You've got everything? Yeah, thank you so much for that wonderful hour. Another round of applause. Thank you so much. Thank you. We've got a networking lunch now in the courtyard between 2 and 3 in the courtyard. Then we've got an exclusive fireside chat with the maestro himself, singer, songwriter, composer, A.R. Rahman. He'll be speaking about sound, soul, creative society with author, producer, and actor Vani Tripathi Tikku. That's after lunch in the courtyard. Now, lunch in the courtyard. See you after lunch and enjoy your lunch.
We've come a long way to get to where we are today. From what started as a single dream to enabling millions of dreams. From a handful of experts to thousands in our team. From two-wheeler to becoming a financing leader, we cover the length and breadth of our nation. As India moves forward, we move forward. With resilience, resolve and determination. With a focus on digital and innovation. We are relentless in our drive as we strive to meet and exceed the evolving needs of being Bharat ka digital lender. In a market filled with increasing choice, we needed to find our unique brand voice. As part of our journey to tell our growth story, we spoke to people across the country, covering all our stakeholders from customers, channel partners and employees. We sought inspiration in their values and aspirations. We breathe new life in our brand identity, framing human stories through windows of opportunity, reflecting our vision to empower upward mobility, broadening horizons through financial accessibility. Our loans symbolize a dose of confidence, the confidence to make it happen, the confidence to take action, to form collaborations, to go further than we have ever before, to become an inspiration and hero to all. Hero FinCorp, the confidence to make it happen.
What can a bank bring to the world? At Emirates NBD, we empower people, companies, economies, countries. Proudly born in the UAE, leading the region, expanding globally. Investing, innovating, delivering, giving back, paying forward. We believe in creating opportunities for prosperity. We are Emirates NBD.
I believe we need to focus on 3 key areas: empowerment, mentorship, and support.